Could we build a machine that runs forever? You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. First, a demonstration. So what's the point of all that? Well, the point is that no matter what kind of silly prop you use, we can demonstrate that the universe obeys certain constant laws. No matter how many times we drop or throw that prop hammer, it's still going to hit the same rate of speed as it approaches the center of our Earth because of gravity. The world and the universe in which the world exists moves along certain immutable laws. Or does it? That's Matt behind the camera. I'm Ben. That makes this Stuff They Don't Want You to Know. And this week, we've been exploring something that fascinates both Matt and myself, as well as hundreds of thousands of people in the world, right? Maybe even millions. And that is the idea of energy suppression. We did a much earlier video on Nikola Tesla where we talked about whether or not his research has been repressed and what the United States may or may not have done with his notes upon his death. We're going to also explore free energy suppression in our upcoming new video later this week. But this time we wanted to take our vlog section and do a quick rundown or introduction to a very fascinating thing in the history of patents and energy and inventions, and that is the perpetual motion machine. Well, it sounds like it does what it says on the tin, right? If it works, it's just a machine that can continue to function indefinitely without an external power source and without falling to entropy. The problem with perpetual motion machines, say mainstream scientists, is that they are literally impossible. So impossible that everything we understand about physics would have to be completely reevaluated if even one of these things worked perpetually or to the point that they claim to work. This is a very old idea, the idea of inventing a perpetual motion machine. Proposals from it date to the 8th century in Bavaria. And then in 1150, a guy named Bhaskara II proposed another sort of machine, Bhaskara's wheel, which he said would also provide perpetual motion. There are three types of commonly proposed perpetual motion machines. The first is some sort of machine that functions without any external energy source. As far as we know, many people have claimed to invent these, but no one has satisfactorily proven this invention. And we're going to see that a lot with the next two examples as well. The second kind of perpetual motion machine would be a machine that somehow spontaneously converts thermal or heat energy into what's called mechanical work, the ability to do stuff in the world. And it converts this without any side effects, without any lost energy. And then there's a third type that you'll probably hear about sometimes, which is a no friction device. And a no friction device would not be losing energy to the friction that exists pretty much everywhere in the natural world. But we have actually, we being the human species, not you and I, Matt, unfortunately, we have built low friction devices. And we have built devices that are extraordinarily energy efficient. However, this all goes back to the tricky word perpetual, a forever machine. The human mind is probably physically unable to comprehend the notion of infinity, much less build a machine that has a warranty that lasts that long, at least as far as we know, because as it turns out, the ideas, the proposals for perpetual energy machines aren't just some ancient stuff, they're not just centuries old. There is an active culture, an active enterprise or endeavor might be a good word for it, across the world by various entrepreneurs, engineers, and inventors who are attempting to turn the notion of classical physics on its head and prove that the laws of thermodynamics are perhaps not as ironclad as we had always thought they were, despite the numerous mathematical and physical proofs that exist of these laws today. So how often are inventors coming and saying, we have invented something like this, a perpetual motion machine, or maybe a free energy device of some sort, which would be a similar concept? Well, it's happened so often that the US Patent Office has a special provision or requirement for a perpetual motion machine, which they don't have for most of their other inventions. You cannot get a patent for a perpetual motion machine unless you have a working model, sort of a put up or shut up thing, I guess, right? That catch has made it so that despite the numerous patents people have had for various alternative energy forms, no one has successfully patented and marketed a perpetual motion machine, at least as far as we know, at least as the mainstream goes. So as Matt and I are diving into our next episode on free energy, what we would like to ask you for help with is, one, do you think that someone has already designed a successful free energy system or a perpetual motion machine? And if so, who, where, when? We'd love to hear more about this. Two, do you think that there are forces suppressing this technology, if indeed it exists? And if so, of course, who, why, where? We'd love to hear all of this. And third, do you have any suggestions for topics we should cover in the future? As always, Matt and I can be found on our Facebook page, on our Twitter page. You can send us an email directly. We are conspiracy@howstuffworks.com, and stay tuned for our upcoming episodes.